You're all probably here with me today because you are asking that question, how can you get your wife to have a threesome? And just look at that sentence for a second. How can you get your wife to have a threesome? We can't get her to do anything, but we can get you to understand the process that's needed to open up the curiosity without pressuring her to potentially, have a threesome. The question that I prefer you guys to ask is, instead of how can I get my wife to have a threesome, it's how can I create a safe relationship where difficult taboo conversations can happen safely and openly. So let's be honest, a threesome isn't really about adding another person. Like all you sitting here right now, it's probably about that variety, that curiosity. But really, it's the quality of your relationship between the two of you first. If you and your wife never talk about the fantasies, if you never discuss your turn-ons, your boundaries, your desires, and if sex is only something that you talk about when there's a problem, then you cannot jump straight into, hey babe, would you like to have a threesome? It's like handing a whole banana to a baby and expecting them to know what to do with it. She's going to crumble. Her self-esteem, her confidence is literally going to leave the door faster than you can imagine. You're probably sitting there right now because you're thinking, yeah, I've tried that and it's gone that way. The relationships, really work that same way, and building that capacity, building herself to be able to do that. You don't jump into the biggest, most vulnerable conversation first. So get your notebook and pen out. Remember to write this down. Remember what you need to know. I'm going to mention a couple of things that you need first in your relationship before, okay, how can I actually approach this? So, the few things that you need to have first in the relationship is emotional safety. Can your wife tell you a fantasy without worrying that you'll judge her? Can she say no without you getting defensive or sulking or getting angry? Can she share something vulnerably, knowing that you will stay curious instead of reacting? If the answer is no to any of those above that, create a bit of like agitation or irritability in the relationship, you can't start with a threesome. You need to have a safe, emotionally safe environment. And this is where I suggest that you start first with. And if you are a bit explosive in the relationship, if you're wondering, it's like, Katie, how can I get, yeah, this is this. My 30-day intimacy reboot for husbands is going to take you there because it allows you to let go of that anger, that frustration, or defensiveness, so you can allow your wife to ask to come to you with her heart, to bring her heart, to share what she needs without you kind of like shutting the door in her face. The second one that I want to give you is that you need healthy communication around sex. So when was that last time you had an argument, you had a conversation, we don't arguments. When was the last time you had a conversation around intimacy that wasn't actually during sex or immediately after an argument for like a breakup? Can you both talk about what turns you on, your desires, what you want to explore, what feels exciting, what feels uncomfortable? These conversations aren't normal. If the conversations aren't normal yet in the relationship, you need to make them normal before. So just drop a yes or a no below if you are having healthy conversations, and no if you're not. Because you will notice that all husbands out there think that you can just go in for this threesome, but if you're not having these conversations, then introducing a fantasy is probably going to bring up insecurities and jealousies or fear because it's not normal. We have to put the bread down before we can put the butter on top. The third one that I want to give you is a strong foundation of trust. So, for example, has there been emotional betrayal, physical cheating, infidelity in the relationship? This conversation should never be about you needing to fix part of the relationship. And especially if there is that resentment or the poor intimacy or you're feeling disconnected, adding someone else in is not going to solve these problems. It's going to amplify it. And I do not recommend that. The couples that I work with who explore fantasies in a safe way are the couples that are the strongest. They come from a bit base foundations. They've got the connection. They're not trying to fill a gap in the relationship. Because if you've got a gap and you're trying to put someone in or fill someone in, that gap is just going to get bigger. And your marriage and your relationship is gently going to fade apart. So now I'm going to bring up, yeah, you're welcome to drop any questions below. I can always come back to them. I'm going to give you three ways in how you're actually going to bring up this conversation with your wife now. First one is starting with curiosity. Instead of like leading with your fantasy, I want you to start with a broader conversation. Something like, hey, babe, I've realized we've never really talked about our fantasies. I've got a few things that have been playing over my mind recently. I'm a little bit afraid or anxious that you might judge me, but I love you and I'm here as a team. We're in this relationship together. Is this a conversation that you'd be open to having with me? Can you notice there is no agenda? You're just creating safety first and allowing yourself to express yourself. Within this, what I would recommend is just having a back and forth around things that you would like to explore, things that you would like to, the things that are going on in your mind, your fantasies, and writing them down on a piece of paper and letting you and your wife know that these don't have to be acted on. They are fantasies just here to play with. So writing, I'd say 3 to 5 down on a piece of paper and then swapping them over. This will be a good test for communication and a good test for the emotional safety that you guys do or don't have. Because if she is feeling judged, or either of you are feeling judged or anxious, or there's just shutting the door down, that is what we want to be working on first before you're going deeper into the relationship. So maybe you've got to that point and you're like, Katie, do you know, every time I bring this up, she's always shutting me down. Reach out to me, guys, because this is the work that needs to be done to create safety, like I said earlier, so you can continue on that journey. So that is curiosity, just bringing in gentle conversations about play, taboo subjects, fantasies, being tied up, BDSM, any desires that you want to watch videos together. This is going to open her nervous system and her body to be like, oh, okay, we're trying something different. And the more you continue in this path of curiosity, then we gently bring the threesomes, moresomes, or the cuckolding into it because she's a bit more opened up to it. And that kind of like leads me into the second one. It's just bringing in the talk about fantasies in general. So not every fantasy needs to become real. A lot of fantasies actually tell us more about ourselves. So it's about like gonna go a little bit deeper into the fantasy here. When you have a fantasy, when you feel a fantasy, what is it? Like the emotion behind that fantasy. So, wanting a threesome, is it to be desired by two women? Is it to have that novelty? Is it to have that playfulness? How does that make you feel? If it is to watch your wife with another man, what is that? Is that a power struggle? Is that a dynamic play? Is that you not feeling enough? What is it that you're feeling that leads to that? There's a lot of shadows that play out in sexuality, and I love bringing awareness to them because when we're comfortable with those uncomfortable parts of ourselves in sexuality, we actually become so much more liberated in how we feel in ourselves, and then how you can bring that then into your relationship because we don't know what we don't know until we know. So the what I would say there is really question yourself first and then lead with vulnerability before actually asking her the bigger questions of actually going to do the thing. You want to be building trust in the dynamic before just kind of going in with guns blazing. And I want the third one that's going to help here is allowing conversations and talks without expectations to start off. If your relationship has already got a strong foundation, and I really hope it does, before you're going into this conversation, you are allowed and you can have that the foundation of honesty without creating pressure towards her. Something like there is something like kind of what I said before. There's something I've been curious about sexually. I don't need to say, you don't need to say yes, it's on my mind, but I just love to know if you're open to hearing it. So this would probably come after. This is where you're going to go deeper into that. Okay, what is it you're actually wanting? You're actually wanting that threesome. Once she's actually listened to you and you've brought up the subject around fantasies and desires, this is when we go in a little bit deeper into it. So it's like, okay, I've actually got this. But bringing it up doesn't always mean that it has to happen. Literally, guys, what I'm giving you now is over weeks, maybe months of a process. Also, when you're having these conversations, please do not be having these conversations with your wife when she's changing the baby's nappy, when she's packing the car, when she's, going trying to fill up with petrol when she's doing the dishes. She needs to be in a relaxed, calm state before you're bringing any of these questions to her. If she is feeling pressured or overwhelmed already in life, you bringing something completely out of the blue is not going to help. We're not here to convince her. We're here and I'm helping you to build a relationship where both of you feel safe and honest. I can see a lot of you nodding right now, and I hope you're taking a lot away because the truth is, a no can feel emotionally safe for the relationship and a lot healthier than a forceful yes. The couples who have the most adventurous sex lives aren't necessarily the ones doing the wildest, craziest things. They're the ones who've got learned to how to have uncomfortable conversations around sex, openness, respect, curiosity, and zero pressure. So right now, I want you to look at your relationship and think, is my relationship, are we talking about sex? Does she feel safe? Has there been a betrayal or an infidelity? And how is the general overall feelings of our relationship? That's where you want to start. And then if that's all got green ticks, we can go into part two. Part two is open up the curiosity for fantasy. Then we get there, then the next steps will come soon. But this is your start point because you cannot just go into the deep end. She's going to frazzle, you're going to frazzle, it's going to hurt the relationship, and that gap is going to get bigger. A fantasy is the conversation that can help it be, can kind of get it ignited. And then it's the teamwork and the choice that is going to help you move forward. So, what are you going to work on? What are you going to implement this week, this weekend, in what I've just spoken about? If you are want to go deeper into this to, feel that connect with that safety, be who you need, be the husband that your wife needs you to be first. You can find everything inside my 30-day intimacy reboot for husbands. This is going to help you go to those deeper layers on understanding the intimacy and connection for the relationship, get a deeper insight into your wife, what she's navigating, why she doesn't want the sex, and why she's feeling as she is. And then when you've got that ironed out, then the play, the pleasure, the intimacy comes a lot more. And then that's when I'm happy to help you guys deeper onto that journey of actually, okay, Katie, we're doing this. We've found a couple. We're going into this. We're going to this party. This is it. That's when you want to come to me. If you're at that point, reach out. If you're not, I really suggest doing the 30-day intimacy reset. It's not about tricking your wife or, manipulating her. It's about you becoming a better version for you to show up in wholeness in your relationship so she feels ecstatic and amazing. And then together you go and explore this together because that's what you're in. You're in this relationship together. Can you promise me you're going to do it the right way, guys? Okay, please do not go straight into the deep end and give a full banana with a peel on it to a baby. See you next time.